Hey guys, you want to hear a joke? The Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie. Bam! That's it. Anyway, hey there guys, what's up? It's Autobot Mike 18 here, back with another movie review for you guys. Guys, I'm going to be reviewing the biggest it's the biggest release of this coming weekend. I was lucky enough to get a chance to see this movie Thursday night preview. I went to the early Thursday night screening because I am a fanboy and I enjoy movies, especially big movies, comic book movies, specifically X-Men Apocalypse. That's right, guys. I saw X-Men Apocalypse the other night, and now here I am going to be giving you guys my thoughts on the movie in my traditional review format. I was definitely looking forward to X-Men Apocalypse for a lot of different reasons, but obviously I was really hyping it up specifically because I really enjoyed the last few X-Men installments that we've gotten. Specifically X-Men Days of Future Past. And when I heard that Bryan Singer, who also directed Days of Future Past and the first two X-Men films, was returning to direct Apocalypse, I got immediately excited. I believe the guy who shot Days of Future Past, Newton Thomas Siegel, who also shot Drive, also returned to shoot this movie. Don't quote me on that, though. I really got pumped. I couldn't wait to see where they were going to take the story next. And as I mentioned in the beginning intro of my video, my review, Rotten Tomatoes critics have not taken kindly to this movie so far. Why? Well, we'll find out. But anyway, guys, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's get into the premise behind X-Men Apocalypse. Let me talk a little bit about the story in the movie. Of course, without spoiling, I never spoil, especially with big movies like this. It's very important to never spoil anything. But X-Men Apocalypse essentially is dealing with a lot of different storylines. So I'll just say this much. A new threat has risen, okay? Has returned after a deep, deep slumber. Let me just say this much. And his name, we will all call him, everyone who's read the comics refers to him as Apocalypse. And in this movie, he's played by Oscar Isaac. He is essentially, he's the world's first mutant. He is just completely all-powerful, and the moment this guy comes on screen, I'm like, okay, I don't know how they're going to defeat this guy. Holy crap, what are they going to do? So Apocalypse is here, and he's got some pretty bad plans for the world and humanity. It's not going to end well. And basically the movie is following essentially three storylines in the first act. We follow Mystique, played by Jennifer Lawrence. She's trying to rescue a few certain mutants, still trying to do that as she was kind of like she was in Days of Future Past. Specifically, she's trying to rescue Nightcrawler. We also focus on Magneto, Eric Lenger, played by Michael Fassbender. He's really trying to lay low. He's trying to start a new life and get away from everything, all the mistakes he essentially made at the end of Days of Future Past at that DC conference. Things did not go well. The whole world knows about mutants now because of his actions, so he's really got to lay low. And we're also following Professor X, James McAvoy, who has successfully reopened Xavier's School for the Gifted, and they are now taking new students, and the school's growing. And of course, everyone's going to get entangled in the Apocalypse storyline as Apocalypse tries to take over the world. And that basically is the plot behind X-Men Apocalypse. Now, as I said, guys, I was really looking forward to this movie. I was definitely skeptical of the movie going in because of every bad review that I had heard the movie had gotten, and every person who had said that they didn't care for the movie, they weren't crazy about it. Rotten Tomatoes score is not X-Men friendly for this movie, so the critics obviously didn't care for it. But what does the audience think? What did I think of this movie? Well, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really loved X-Men Apocalypse. Do I think it's flawed? Yes, I do. I am not going to say that this movie is without its flaws, because it's definitely not. And you know what? I'll name them right here up in the right front and center, because I can see why people are Like, okay, yeah, the movie's, it's bloated down, there's too much going on, there's way too many characters, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see, I'll get to this later, but I don't see why that's like the one thing that's like damning the movie, because I thought everything else was flawless. I really just think some characters needed to be cut out of the movie, and overall the runtime needed to be trimmed down just a hair. But even that, like, the runtime isn't really what bothered me. I think it was just they did have too many characters to juggle, and they did have too many side plots, and I think they could have easily lost one big factor to the movie. And I think that would have probably saved the movie, actually, and probably would make everybody say, oh yeah, Apocalypse was awesome. But I still found enjoyment in it. I still loved where it went, the stakes that were presented, the cast, everything else worked on that front. But what I'll say right off the bat, actually no, I'll save the cons towards the end. Let me just get into the really good stuff that I loved about Apocalypse. And that probably is going to start off with the ensemble cast. The ensemble cast for this movie, guys, is nuts. This might be, apart from Civil War, the biggest ensemble cast of the year. Most likely, I'll name every single actor who was in this movie. Real quick, let me rattle them off. James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, Lucas Till, Evan Peters, Oscar Isaac, Ty Sheridan, Olivia Munn, Alexandra Shipp. Just the names just keep coming and coming. I'm pretty sure there's even people I'm forgetting. Let me look at the poster. I'm cheating and look at the poster. Why not? Yeah, no, I pretty. Kodi-Smit McPhee. I said Evan Peters. Yeah, I mean, holy crap! This is a pretty big cast. Rose Byrne. There you go. I'm still reading more names. There you go. The cast in this movie is insane, and the time period the movie is rooted in the 1980s. So the whole Days of Future Past storyline is done, because the point of that movie was to send Wolverine specifically in the future back to the past, to the 1970s X-Men that we saw in X-Men First Class, and take care of things there and fix everything that way. Now we have, we're following the continuing adventures of these characters who we were introduced to in First Class, and we saw the most of in Days of Future Past. So everybody from the Days of Future Past cast who was in the future setting, meaning Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, they're not in this movie because we're focusing on them. And essentially, that timeline was deleted. So X-Men 1 and 2 really don't exist at this point because of what happened in Days of Future Past. But anyway, you guys knew that. So that's why we're following these characters in Apocalypse. And I loved these characters from First Class, and I love how they've grown and established these characters throughout these three movies, because essentially this has become its own trilogy of the older X-Men characters, starting with First Class and ending with Apocalypse. Now, I don't know if they're going to make a fourth film. They probably will, with the way the post-credit scene ended, but you know, it's Marvel. Of course they're going to have another one. But I love the journey that we've gone on with all of these characters. First off, right off the bat, Michael Fassbender's storyline in this movie was amazing. I thought they gave him a lot more to do than he had to do with Days of Future Past, especially in the first half of that movie. Because the first half of this movie, I was really into his storyline, probably the most, and I really wanted to see where it was going to go and where it was going to lead him specifically. And then we had all the other storylines coming in and intercutting between all these other storylines, so that weighs the movie down. But I'll get into that later. But I was really into it. I was into where he was going with it. I was into what Mystique was up to, and getting the other mutants and all that. I was really into all of that. I was into Xavier finding out about Apocalypse and trying to figure out what's he been up to and what Maria McTaggart is up to and what she's investigating specifically concerning Apocalypse. So I was really into all of that in the first act, and then come right around the midpoint, which is definitely easy to point out if you've seen the movie, I was still into it, and the stakes just rose and they got higher and higher. And then we get to the third act of the movie, and the second act carries out, and I was just really into it. The climax, the final battle is literally perfect. I thought that was, I don't want to say the best part, because I really enjoyed every scene in this movie. There wasn't one scene I felt, oh, you can cut that out. It's really the characters within the movie as a whole that weighs down the movie, not the individual scenes themselves, because I thought they played really well against each other. I thought they transitioned well. I bought like the placement of scenes and everything, and I was just really into all of that overall with the movie. And I think this is like the biggest X-Men movie in terms of how high the stakes are. And I felt those stakes throughout the movie because Apocalypse is this big badass who Oscar Isaac did amazing, by the way. And he is going to literally end the world. Him along with his 4 horsemen, which is where my main problem with the movie comes in. And I'll get into that in a second. That whole just like a semblance is enough that's going to say, oh crap, how are the X-Men going to take care of this? What the hell are they going to do against this guy? They got to bring out the big guns. And man, oh man, do they bring out the big guns. I was really happy with, there were a lot of surprises in this movie that I really wasn't expecting, especially in the final battle. That I was like, holy crap, like I watched some of the X-Men animated cartoon when I grew up. Not all of it, I don't remember all of it, but to see some things reincarnated and adapted on the big screen for the first time, or for the first time that I've seen it, because I'll go on record here, I have not fully seen X-Men and X2, the first 2 X-Men movies. I do not remember watching the first X-Men at all. I do remember watching X2, and I remember really enjoying it, but I don't remember the movie as a whole, because I saw it when I was so young. So I blot those movies out, because I haven't seen them. But the way things were handled in like X-Men 3 are handled much better in this, and I do not think this is the weakest X-Men movie that we've gotten. I think this is one of the better X-Men films that I have seen, not including X-Men 1 and 2. I don't think it's as good as Days of Future Past because that is just such a tightly paced, and it had a complete narrative focus on where it wanted to go and what it was doing, and we didn't cut back to everybody in the future too much, which is because that's not where the story was. The story was in the past, and I loved how they focused on that, and I thought that worked well for Days of Future Past, which is why that might be my favorite X-Men movie. Apocalypse, on the other hand, the problems of this movie lie within the fact that there are too many characters, and the story doesn't have a specific character or plot point to focus on. You know what I mean? That definitely makes it feel messy. It's not Batman v Superman. Tell me. Listen to this. X-Men Apocalypse has more characters than Batman v Superman, and it's still a better movie than Batman v Superman. I'm sorry, but it is. However, Captain America Civil War, I really don't like comparing things. I hate doing that. But I am going to compare because we have these big superhero movies this year, so why not? Civil War had that narrative focus, which is why I loved that movie and raved about it and gave it an A+, because they had that focus on the main story, and they brought in side characters for battles that mattered, and that was it. That's all we saw of them, and I didn't want to see more of them. I was satisfied. This movie, I am so satisfied to see every one of these characters on the big screen. They gave a lot more characters from Days of Future Past more to do with, like Quicksilver, who killed it in this movie. Holy crap, his sequence in this movie was much better than the one in Days of Future Past, which I wasn't even crazy about, but I loved it in this one. It was genius. They outdid themselves, without a doubt. And I loved, as I said, like I loved what they did with Magneto's storyline in this, and where they were going with Mystique, and how they even introduced Cyclops in this movie, and I thought Ty Sheridan was great. I loved the little ragtag team of Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and Jean Grey. I thought that worked really well. I thought there were some excellent, well-executed sequences, some great surprises, some great cameos in the movie for sure, without spoiling anything. I just think that this movie is a blast and really entertaining, but it doesn't have that narrative focus, which is what's keeping me from going all the way with my score for this movie and saying it's flat out amazing, it's the best X-Men movie to date, because it's not. I feel that things definitely could have been improved on, and I feel characters in general could have been cut. And what I said earlier about Apocalypse and the Four Horsemen, without explaining who the Four Horsemen are, I honestly feel they should have just cut the Four Horsemen out of the movie. Now, I don't know comics, okay? I haven't read the comics. I don't know them. I don't know how pertinent these characters are to Apocalypse. But if it was me, I felt that that was the one thing that took away the focus on our villain, because I wasn't sure who to look at as a villain. I knew it was Apocalypse, but they were showing these other people, these Four Horsemen characters, and bringing them into the story more than Apocalypse. So I lost sight of Apocalypse throughout the movie. I lost sight of Magneto throughout the movie, and I was like, I don't know who the antagonist of this movie is. And there were moments that I thought were handled well, and other moments that I thought weren't, in regards to getting that idea of that focus on characters. And I think that's ultimately what kept me from enjoying Apocalypse more than I did. However, I still had a blast with this movie, as I've said. I honestly just feel that had a few characters been cut out, for example, there's three characters, three of the Horsemen, who we not only seen in other X-Men movies, but they're introduced here. And I feel that's all well and good, but when you start to focus on them as well as Apocalypse throughout the whole movie, you start to lose sense of really the main villain that was established so well in the first scene of the movie. And I thought that's where the movie faltered a little bit for me. I definitely feel, as I said, characters could have been cut, and some side plots could have been cut or trimmed down, and I think maybe some scenes could have been rearranged to put the important characters at the front and establish where they are and everything. I definitely feel that while this movie was incredibly executed and acted, and the action and the visual effects are all great, you guys know all that stuff, the only thing holding this movie down for me was the factor that they had a lot of characters to squeeze into this movie, and it felt like they were just trying to put them in there just to have them there. And I felt they were relevant, and I enjoyed seeing them on the screen. I felt like a little child again, seeing some of these characters who I haven't seen on the screen in years, essentially, or at all. Some characters were new, yeah. Well, one character was new that we've never seen before, and I was really into all of that. But I just feel that things could have been handled just a little bit better. Things could have been tightened a bit, and a few storylines could have been cut out from the beginning when they were working on the script. Nevertheless, I still think this is a blast of a movie. I think it's a fun ride. I think it's exhilarating, especially in the final act. And I definitely would recommend you guys check it out. I'm not going to say don't go see the new X-Men movie. Go see the new X-Men movie. It's surely a lot of fun. You're going to have a blast with it. I don't think it ranks higher than Days of Future Past or First Class for me. It's probably right below First Class for me, but I still enjoyed it, and I still had fun with it, and I still think that we have potential to get other good X-Men movies. And I love the way this movie ended. I loved certain sequences that were amazing. There were a lot of surprises in the movie that really took me by surprise. That I just said the same thing twice. Sorry. So I definitely would recommend you guys check out X-Men Apocalypse. It's far from as bad as the critics are saying. Come on, 43%? 43%? The last time I checked? That's absurd, guys. This movie is nowhere near that bad. That's like, no, that's ridiculous, guys. X-Men Apocalypse gets an 8.5 out of 10, or a grade of a B from me. It's definitely a fresh grade for me. I would recommend you guys check it out. I think it's worth your time and your money for sure. Without a doubt. Go see it this weekend. Memorial Day weekend. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. I still think there's fun to be had with it, although it's messy. It's not as messy as other superhero team-up movies we've gotten this year. Batman v Superman. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say about X-Men Apocalypse. What did you guys think of the movie? Let me know down below in the comments. I'd really appreciate it, and go and check it out this weekend. Thank you, as always, so much for watching, guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.